Right now, I am going to share 5 secrets discovered during and directly after the Exile Meet in Los Angeles about Path of Exile 2. I've not seen many content creators, if any, speak about them, and while they might not be too consequential, I still think they're cool little tidbits we were able to find given the Act 1 and 2 areas we could explore and the media kits we were given. Together, we'll dive a bit more into each, but because some people like the information straight up, here it is. The 5 PW2 secrets we are going to explore are the names and art of 3 Ascendancies hidden in the Exile Meet media kit, the tiering of unidentified items, the name and art of the new Big Bad in the upcoming campaign, the first official flail usage, and the confirmation of where Act 5 occurs in Path of Exile 2. This will be a juicy but quick video. My fellow exiles, welcome. I am Try. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy what you see and hear. Now, let's talk some Path of Exile 2. Hidden away inside the Exile Meet media kit are multiple pieces of breathtaking art. However, 3 of them in particular are of interest to us. We're not looking at the class portrait for the Ranger here, that doesn't matter too much. We're not looking at the class portrait for the Druid, while although rad also doesn't matter too much. We are looking at these first 3 right here because they hide the names of 3 Ascendancy classes in Path of Exile 2. First up, we have an Ascendancy for the Druid, the Shaman. And this looks to be a creature, a class that controls the elements to their full potential. And in particular, it looks like it's controlling fire, flames, volcanoes, fissures, all that sort of stuff. And that'll be the flavor of that particular Ascendancy class. We see the volcano in the background, lava floating all around him, rocks floating around him, and the stylized art here is just wonderful. And the belt itself even looks like something that Einhar might wear. So maybe it's inspired by Einhar's homeland, Ezomite, by Einhar's people, the Ezomites. So while cool, it's definitely not the favorite one that I see here. That would go to number 2, which is an Ascendancy for the Ranger called the Arcane Archer, which, while the art doesn't look too arcane, is something that I am shocked to see in a Path of Exile game. In a game where they don't really mention the arcane or magic, they call it thaumaturgy and the dark arts and so on and so forth. It's actually maybe going to get an Arcane Archer Ascendancy, so a ranger focused completely around bows and imbuing those bows and arrows with magic sounds just absolutely beautiful, and it's an archetype that not many games can nail down well. So we don't see much here. It's really in the name that we're getting all the juicy details. The art doesn't look too wild. I mean, this bow does look interesting here. It almost looks like a reverse short bow right here, but we don't see much else. It's only the name that is super cool. And then we have the third piece of art, and that is an Ascendancy for the Warrior. It is the Earthshaker. And once again, it's a baller piece of art. We have undead in the background. We have him wielding a massive hammer and slamming it into the ground. It essentially looks like Sunder. So this Ascendancy likely will be focused around slams in all their various forms. Now, we don't really have one of those in PoE1 right now. It used to be the Chieftain. You can still argue it kind of is, but it's very, very weak. So hopefully the Earthshaker in PoE2 will be that slam-focused build. If it is, oh my goodness, I cannot wait to play it. Also, that's the piece of art that they decided to give us from Exile Meet right here. It is the Earthshaker. That's pretty cool. I'm really glad that I have it now. Maybe I'll start this whenever Path of Exile 2 drops. Looking at the 3 right here, I'm really most excited for the Earthshaker, probably number 2, the Arcane Archer, and number 3, the Druid Shaman class. Now, I know that might be a little bit controversial given I think the art here is definitely in the Shaman's favor, but the concept of an Arcane Archer in Path of Exile and of someone fully fixated around slams is way cooler than some sort of Ascendancy that just focuses on creating fissures with magic and controlling lava and fire and so on and so forth. I like the 2 other fantasies far more. What do you think? Let me know below, and do you think that these will actually make it to PoE2? I'm pretty sure they will, But, of course, we haven't even heard any official confirmations about any of the Ascendancies yet, so it is still subject to change. Now, across multiple unique recorded demos of Act 1 and 2 of Path of Exile 2 obtained during Exile Meet, we see various players find unidentified items with the label of Tier 2 appended to their item base name. Now, what exactly might that mean? Well, astute exiles believe this might be the new way that they are going to be giving us powerful loot dropped from monsters. Instead of just saying, oh, all unidentified loot is in one big bucket, you have to identify it to see how powerful it is, well, we're actually going to get loot that is dropped in tiers just like uncut gems. If you get a tier 1 uncut gem, you can only choose from tier 1 skills. If you get a tier 2 uncut gem, you can get tier 2 skills and tier 1 skills and so on and so forth, all the way up to tier 10 gems. Now, could that be the same for loot? Could we get tier 10 loot dropping, which means you're guaranteed 1, 2, maybe 3 powerful mods and the rest are completely random? This would be a way to solve people not wanting to pick up loot off the ground from monsters and identify them. It would be somewhat of a test run or an itemization fix in Path of Exile 2. And really, I kind of like the idea. I know it seems basic, but I think it's a good one. And I'd love to see it play out en masse. Really, we didn't see many scenarios where these tier 2 items were dropping unidentified, and we saw no tier 3s or tier 4s or so on and so forth. And there was just such a small sample size of exiles they're playing and of characters actually making it to areas where these tier 2 items could drop. It seems like it could be the Act boss or the beginnings of Act 2. So we'll have to see, but I do think this unidentified item tiering might be the future of Path of Exile 2 itemization from monster drops. Again, leave your thoughts below. Okay, number 3. Plastered across all the recent promotions of Path of Exile 2 has been a singular entity, a grand humanoid figure adorned in gold-plated armor wielding a massive hammer molded in the shape of the infamous Templar Descry, with a hooded figure hanging from its centerpiece. Nowhere during Exile Meet did we learn his name. Nowhere during Act 1 or 2 did we meet or see him in the demo. However, in the Exile Meet press kit, his picture is labeled as Lumerius. I reckon he's the new big bad in Path of Exile 2's 6-act campaign. The imagery on this individual is riveting. From the actual weapon that he's wielding, which looks sort of like a key, but it also has the Templar imagery on it, to the cape that's rippling in the wind, torn from some battle that we've not witnessed him facing before, to the actual shoulder pads he's wielding, which look quite like those painted glass windows in Oriath, you know, the ones that depict the story of sin and innocence. Could this be Sin or Innocence Reborn? In fact, could this person right here be the hooded one, the person that we interact with in Acts 1 and Acts 2 at the least? And could this be the reformed Innocence himself, a mortal, a god-made mortal that's now incredibly powerful? I don't know. I'm not diving too deeply into the lore of Path of Exile 2 yet, and Kitten Cat Noodle kind of owned me at Exile Meet about lore. I couldn't even name what the Val called virtue gems. By the way, it's Tears of the Magi. I know it now. But this guy, no hints toward him yet. There's going to be a lot of speculation. I'm very interested to see him and to fight him and find out exactly how large he is. Like, is this a human-sized individual? If this thing hanging off his weapon is the hooded one, this dude is an absolute unit. Who do you think Lumerius is? Sounds kind of like Dominus, right? That Templar naming structure. And do you think he's going to be loud when we fight him? Do you see these bells hanging off his chest and his belt? He might be a noisy boy. Okay, next little secret. During my time at Exile Meet, I was lucky enough to find a flail off the ground, equip it, swing it around, and smash in some monsters' skulls with it. Of course, I had no skills that interacted with it, so it wasn't too powerful, but I think this might be the world first use of flails in Path of Exile 2, and I am super looking forward to this weapon type. I cannot express how excited I am to perhaps being the Witch King of Agmar from the Return of the King, swinging around this massive two-handed flail. Oh, It's a fantasy of mine, and even though I only got to live through it a tiny bit by smashing in some skeletons and undead with this flail, doing absolutely no damage with auto attacks, it still felt good. Do you think it looks good? Let me know. Okay, here comes the last juicy secret, Exiles. During the exciting Ranger gameplay reveal on GGG Live, it was not mentioned, but the Ranger was playing through an area in Path of Exile 2's 5th act. At Exile Meet, we saw the same demonstration, but live. Jonathan Rogers gave the presentation, but Octavian was playing the Ranger. When on character select, the Ranger's background showed she was in Act 5, a place we've not seen or heard about in the slightest. Then, when the Ranger loaded in, we saw the area name was the Pantheon of the Gods. This is our first official confirmation of an Act 5 area, and we also now know that the first glimpse at the monk in Path of Exile 2, the Agarot teaser, was in Act 5 as well. Act 5 seems to be focused around the gods, and Val gods and beings in particular. The creature that we see, the Ranger fight, Thanos, literally throws currency at us during the fight, and every time he uses a certain type of currency, he says the currency's name in his voice line. He says exalted, he says divine, he says chaos. This is intentional from Grinding Gear Games. It almost seems like we might be chasing down some sort of meta enemy during Path of Exile 2's campaign, and it would be pretty on the nose and pretty darn cool for Grinding Gear Games to do this. I still have no idea how this relates to Lumerius though, who I think is the big bad evil villain of Path of Exile 2. And those were all the secrets, the 5 Path of Exile 2 secrets from Exile Meet. Here's a tremendous thanks to everyone who watched this video to the end, and a massive thank you to each and every one of my supporters. I'm talking to you patrons, members, and subs. You can join the community for free by subscribing to this channel and joining our Discord, or get me to make more content by clicking on one of my support links in the description. Additionally, did you like this video? If you did, please throw it a like, subscribe, hit the sub notification bell, share it with your friends, and leave a comment for the unbiased algorithm. Anyways, that's all for this video. Tell Moana, totally sane exiles.